Good day. Welcome to another video of how to make your drawings come alive. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about scale and proportion. Scale and proportion. So, when you talk about scale, it refers more to the size of comparing it to another object. So, if you're drawing a apple and you compare it to a banana, the proportions are different and the scaling is different. Same goes for when you compare a building to a person, and how big that building is in proportion to the person. You know, you will feel the scale of what it feels like to be a small person with a big building. So when you talk about proportion, on the other hand, it refers to the proper and harmonious relation between each part or parts of an object. So these two principles come hand in hand, and they actually work really well together, especially when it comes to body forms, car styling, product developments. Scale and proportion plays a big factor in all those things. So to illustrate, I will show you how that will work, okay, in terms of proportion and scale. So we'll start off with what I would say as the proportions of let's say a person. So when you make a person, usually you start off with an oblong or an oval. So you start off with an oval, and you make 8 ovals of the same size. This is your proportion. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So this is the proportion of a man. So if you look, so if you see it, this is actually the head, the shoulders, the torso, the stomach, the abdomen, the hips, the legs, and the shins and the feet. So it takes 8 heads, proportions of the head. It takes 8 proportions of the head to create a good proportion scale of a person. Okay. So when you fill this in, just to prove a point, okay, you see that the proportions really come out and help. So I don't know if you can see it well with the angle, but the angle of at least the proportion of the person can see it takes 8 heads. Okay. Now it's the same with any drawing that you do. You always have to keep that in mind, that scale is important. So let's say if I were to draw a, let's say this, let's put this aside. So if I were to draw an elephant, okay, again, start with basic shapes. So if your proportions of your elephant in your scale, talk about the scale first. So if your elephant is, if the proportions of the head in the scale, okay, if I were to draw a person right next to this this elephant, if I were to make him this big, in proportion to the human as to the elephant, you can see that the elephant doesn't look so big. But if you were to draw a person in relation to the making the person smaller, see, now the elephant looks big. So when you draw an object in relation to a thing, you're actually creating a scale depending on how big you want your drawing to be, or your eye. So let's say if you want to draw so here, that's our elephant right there. So in proportion to in scale to the elephant as to the man, you see that he is a lot smaller than the elephant. But if you were to draw the person almost as tall as the elephant, then the elephant looks like it's a juvenile elephant. So it really depends on what you want to come out. Or if you want to draw let's say in terms of depth, the elephant could be farther away and the person could be nearer. So the way to do that is your floor line should not be the same floor line as this person. So if I were to draw the same size person but made it come out where it's actually somewhere here, okay, same size, right? So if I were to draw the person here, so this person can look the same, can be the same size as this person over here, only the difference is this person is near the camera and further away from the elephant, unlike this guy who's actually right in front of the elephant. So you see that there's actually a perspective that you can get out of that. So when you play with perspectives, you're also playing with scale. So when an elephant, if you were to make an elephant further away, you can play with the scale, put the elephant further out. Let's put it over here. But not on the same plane, but on a different line, further away. So the scale of this is in perspective, so the distance is pretty far. So looking at it, you can create different levels of your drawing. One could be here, one could be on this level, one could be on this level, and another on this level. So you're showing different depths of field. So from here to here to here. So you have your first, your second, and your third. If you want, you can also create another version where your person can be projected. Your person can be projected right here. Notice I'm just making shapes just to make the form of the person. So this person right here is in the foreground, while this person over here is in the background. So you notice that I have perspective lines that vanish, right? So the same with this one over here. So you have a perspective line that goes this way, one that goes this way, and one that goes this way. So you're playing with different depths and perspectives. Okay. So the same applies when you do your proportions and your scales. This is still 8 heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 heads. Same with this, 8 heads. So even when you're doing, let's say you want to make an automobile, you can draw an automobile here. It's different with an automobile where you don't use 8 heads, you use 5 wheels. So to start off, make one wheel here. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this is your car. So we can make the shape. Depending on what we wanna do. So let's just make this car more of a sedan. Come off this way. So with with a with a car, you always have to maintain a certain proportion to a car as well. Same with a human person. So let's say I want to put a car right here. Start off by making a box right on this line. Q. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have your car there. Again, we are talking about scale and proportion. So when you do scale and proportion, your drawings just look more alive, more in detail. It comes off more interesting. So when you get your proportions and your scales right, you will understand that it will help the viewers or whoever it is you're drawing for understand what it is you're trying to project. So as a designer, it's important to understand that drawings like this can help communicate your ideas more efficiently, more properly. So there will be understanding between you and the client. So like in any design process or any art image that you want to do, you always consider scale and proportion. A lot of people neglect this and just go straight into painting and coloring, which is fine. I mean, it's okay, but to make an effective drawing come alive, you need to make sure that your proportions and your scalings are correct. Okay. So here we go. So let's say we go back to the scale of the person right here. So when you make proportions of a person, you always have to consider also making everything work well together. So even when you're drawing, let's say I draw a person based on let's say I want to make more movement. Let's say this is the face or this is the head. Okay, I usually come up with more fluid lines. Reverse teardrop. hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Arms. So you see, if we were to fill this up, proportions of a man. Still 8 heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you still have different movements, but the proportions are still there. See? And once you have your proportions, go back to this page over here. So you do have a better understanding of where your proportions are in relation to the images like this. Then you can start implementing your shading. Again, the light source is coming from here. This side will be darker than this side. See, there's a lot of things that you can do and get away with when you know how to look at your proportions correctly. So the shading comes out more dynamic. It brings out a more realistic feel. So when you do your cars. shadows will help put the object on the ground. So it plays a big role. Scale and proportion play a big role, especially when it comes to drawing, illustrating realistic figures. Okay? So it really helps to do that. Okay, so we go back here and we see that even with human proportions, proportions and scale play a big role. So if you were to have a kid, let's say this is an adult, if you want to have a kid about this high, okay, you want his head to be here, okay. See, proportion in terms of size also plays a big role, because these two are in the same plane. So when you do kids, it's a bit different, because what I like to do is I like to make their heads a bit bigger and their bodies a bit smaller, shoulders a bit thinned out, so that way you'll see that it's a younger person. So proportion and scale and proportion, these two work hand in hand, and they play a big role in any of your drawings that you do. So it's important to see that as you continue to progress in your drawings and you start understanding that what you draw, based on your proportions, your blending, your shading, will really make things come out. When I started, I actually started with just pencils, just monochromatic drawings and shadings. But over time, you can even graduate to watercolor, to adding colors, and that's a whole different topic altogether. But in this case, the shading, the way you blend, also applies to colors. So by practicing your shading in pencil will help you get better also in shading with colors as well. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's just the amount of effort that you put in as an artist or as a designer in the amount of sketching that you do, which will help you understand and help you create better images based on what it is you want to draw, what it is you want to create. And it's important to understand that you have to be patient with yourself as you continue drawing, as you continue making more sketches based on what it is you want to do and what it is you want to create. Okay, so I hope this helps, and I hope that this particular video helps you. So till the next video, thank you.